is the Steve Freeman Podcast.
I got to be honest with you. It is so good to be back with you guys. Fall break. We just came back off of fall break, and me and the family went out to our house in California, and we stayed for 8 days. It was kind of exciting because the wife and kids had never seen the house in California. I mean, they had seen pictures of it, but they'd never actually been there. So it was kind of one of those weird times where, you know, you kind of get there. I was excited because I've been there. I was excited for them to see it. But then you've also kind of got the process going of, okay, well, this is where we're going to be living when we move in May. So, you know, we've got to kind of get the house set up. There was, you know, you have to make the Costco trips and the Walmart trips and do all of that. But I hope for those of you that have had kids on fall break that you guys had a good time. I know a lot of people were going out of town. It's still, to me, interesting traveling. With all that's going on with COVID, I got to be honest, there were very few situations that we got into where we actually could tell. I mean, and I want to address this real quick because I've gotten a lot of emails. I've gotten a lot of communication DMs. There are a lot of people moving out of California. Joe Rogan moved out of California. Ben Shapiro announced that he's moving out of California and actually moving his whole operation here to Nashville. A lot of other YouTubers have been on the platform talking about moving out of the state of California. And I get a lot of people asking me, why are you leaving Nashville and moving to California? And I want to address it just a little bit. And I want to make one thing and kind of one distinction. Everybody that I just mentioned, they are moving out of LA County. There are a lot of people that are moving out of LA County into other places. I think a lot of it has to do with a lot of them are starting to make more and more money. So you want to move to a state with no income tax. And I completely get that. My companies will still be Tennessee-based companies. But I'm not moving to LA County. We were going to move to LA County, but then looking at all of the different reasons why everybody's moving out of LA County, those were the main reasons that we decided that we're not moving there. We're moving to Orange County. And things are a little different in Orange County than they are in LA County. For those of you that have been there and know, you know, it's a little bit more conservative, which I've never made any excuse. I mean, I lean more that way. I'm a pretty liberal thinker in a lot of the ways in things that I believe. But financially, I'm more conservative. I have a lot of conservative beliefs, and that is more Orange County, more so than LA County. You can literally tell the difference. If you're driving either on the San Diego freeway, the 5 freeway, or the PCH, it doesn't matter if you're going north or south. The minute that you cross from Orange County into LA County or from LA County into Orange County, you can immediately tell the difference, that you're in a completely different world. You don't drive down the streets in Orange County in Newport Beach or Laguna or Dana Point or San Clemente. You don't drive down the streets there and there's homeless people all over the place, or there's trash along the freeway, or just trash building up on each side of the road. You don't see that in Orange County. So a lot of my business, it has been in California for a long time. A lot of our clients with the agency, a lot of our musician, but more importantly, not more importantly, but you know what I mean. A lot of our actors and the companies that we consult and that we work for, our production company is in California. And so a lot of things are moving that way. And I've wanted to live out there for years. Quite honestly, the only reason we're still in Nashville is my kids' school. My oldest daughter wanted to graduate high school, where she's been going to school her entire junior high school years. And so we made the commitment. But I got to be honest with you, Nashville's turning into a place that I never wanted to live. We have some great friends here. I professionally, if I'm being 100% honest, I've been here for 15 years. I feel like I've accomplished everything that I set out to accomplish. Like I don't feel like there's anything left on the table for me to fight for here in Nashville. Those of you that are moving here, it's a great place. We have just really enjoyed raising our kids here. There's nothing wrong with Nashville per se. Nashville's getting a little crowded for my taste. For professionally speaking, it's not the town that I moved to. It's no longer the place that I just feel like there are endless opportunities. I was telling my wife the other day on the way back from the airport that she was like, well, actually, we were on our way to LAX and we had just left the house and we were talking about things that we were looking forward to moving and things that we were regretting and that we were going to be sad about leaving behind. And I want to make this statement for anybody out there that's listening and considering, making major changes, especially moving to Nashville. Moving to Nashville seems to be the popular thing around the country right now, which is one of the reasons I want to leave. But like I said, Nashville is not the place that I moved to. And what I told her was that I honest to God, feel that there is a ceiling in Nashville. Now, after 15 years, I look at Nashville and I don't see the endless opportunity for growth, for business growth that I used to see. And it used to be a feeling that I just held. I felt like anything was possible here. Like you could accomplish anything. I don't feel that way anymore. I feel like I've established myself and my brand and my companies to a point where I don't have to be here. It's funny when I look around that 85% of my business is not in Nashville anymore, even musically speaking. Most of the people that I'm working with and artists that I'm producing are West Coast artists or live somewhere else around the country and don't necessarily care about coming to Nashville. So to me, the last 4 or 5 years, I've really, actually about the last 6, 7, 8 years, I've seen the ceiling here in Nashville. And the last 3, 4, 5, I've really just been bumping up against the ceiling in Nashville. But for whatever reason, when I get to LA, Orange County, when I get out in that area and I get involved in the things that we've got going on out there, I honestly, I don't even see a ceiling. And that to me is the most important thing with where I am in my career and the things that I want to do and the things that I want to accomplish. I don't want to look up and see a ceiling. And I do that. I see that ceiling. I feel it because I feel like I'm bumping up against it every day. I've said many times, I feel like what's happened here in Nashville is everybody builds walls around themselves. It's very hard to find people that you want to work with because everybody's so protective of their little thing. They're scared to death you're going to come take a piece of their puzzle. That I've said it before, it is a me town. It's not a we town. I remember when it was a we town. And those were the glory days. Those are the days that I will look back on fondly. When I think about starting my businesses in Nashville, when I think about all the records that I wrote and all the records that I've produced, I will think fondly of those times. But even at the level that I'm at, I can look around and literally identify 4, 5, 6 people, certainly 10 people or less that I would consider are not that way. And that's just not enough to stay, quite honestly. It's just not enough. I feel like I have outgrown the town because in many respects, Nashville doesn't want to change. In many cases, they are changing. And I'm just, look, it's my opinion. I'm just not a big fan of what it's turning into. Plus, who doesn't want to live by the beach? And I swear, all 8 days we were gone. I mean, when you get up and you pull out of our garage and in literally 3 minutes, you can be sitting on one of the most beautiful beaches in the world. Why not? So anyway, a little bit longer than normal explanation. But that was my fall break. Needless to say, things have been quite busy. Again, that's why the podcast coming at you a little bit later this morning than usual. One of the things that I want to do today, and I wanted to leave significant time for it, is I've told you guys before, if you want to ask me a question, there's several ways to do it. You can email me. You can DM me on social media, especially Instagram, like most of you do. You can join our private Steve Freeman podcast Facebook group. which is just, it's growing immensely. And I absolutely love it. I've had to assign some moderators, and it's a really good thing. So you can post questions over there as well, or you can go to thestevefreeman.com. You can actually leave me a voicemail. And I told you guys, whenever I get those voicemails, I'm not just going to like write down my answers or whatever and give you my answers. I'm going to play the actual voicemail. So I wanted to do that today because I feel, based on the emails and the posts that I get and the DMs that I get, I feel that a lot of you have the same questions. And I think that it's valuable to play these voicemails and let you guys hear each other ask these questions, because I think a lot of you have the same questions. So I hope I have this thing set up right. I'm looking at it. I think I've got it set up right. We're definitely going to find out when I start this thing. I just want to make sure that I've got everything there. Okay. So let's give it a shot. And here's a voicemail from one of you guys. Don't forget, anybody can leave me a voicemail. Go to thestevefreeman.com, middle of the page on the right-hand side. There's a button on the website that says leave a voicemail. And you can leave that voicemail, and we'll play it here just like we're fixing to do. So, and I'll answer the questions from the voicemail. So here we go. Let's listen.
Hi, Steve. This is Danielle Trurin in St. Louis, Missouri, and I have a question about different goals and how they can be aligned. So my long-term goal is to get into sync and licensing.
Good goal.
Really, the long-term goal is just to keep getting away with it, if you know what I mean, just with being a musical person. But at some point, bringing in income from it kind of becomes important. And I feel like my best shot at that, and my best shot at kind of having a fulfilled life while pursuing, a music business career, is in sync and licensing. I have about 200 songs written. I'm starting to record them. I feel like I have a good idea about the things that I need to do to play that game well. I'm wondering how important or necessary it may be to have a traditional fan base for sync and licensing. Is it can you do it without any fan base whatsoever, or do you kind of need some people following you to get those music supervisors interested in you? Okay, so the second tier.
All right, let me attack the first tier first. Great question. I've said it 100,000 times probably over the course of the podcast and in YouTube videos in general. If you are a singer-songwriter out there or producer, and your first goal is to make money with your music, which, if that is not your first goal, you should reassess your goals. Because if you don't have money to live and you can't provide for yourself, then you can't make music. You can't do anything else. So I hear a lot of people talk, it's passion. Fuck passion. No, you have got to set yourself up to make money. That has got to be your goal, is to provide for yourself and your family. Number one, always approach your music with the mindset of making money with it. If that's what you want to do for a career. If it's just a passion, there's nothing wrong with that. And it can remain a passion, but don't have expectations or monetary expectations with something that you're putting an effort in for a passion. Now, let me address the question. And Daniel, I appreciate it. Daniel is a longtime listener of the podcast. He is one of our original members of the Artist Development Academy. So I appreciate Daniel leaving the voicemail. No, you do not need a traditional fan base to be successful in sync. I know, if I think about it carefully, I know more people that are having more success in sync that do not have a traditional fan base than people that do. Now, if you're an artist, because there's really two ways of approaching this. You've got the artist side, and then you've got the songwriter/producer side. If you're an artist, then yes, you want songs that get synced so that you can help develop a fan base. I know a lot of artists that have been launched by having a song on TV or film. It happened with Grey's Anatomy. It's happened with the Vampire Diaries. It's happened with True Blood. It's happened with Nashville. It's happened with a lot of the shows that I've written for, including those, where I've seen an artist that got a song synced on one of those shows or a film, and it's actually launched their artist career. So that's one side of it. The other side of it is the singer, songwriter, producer angle of it. And it's like you're just more focused on developing an income for your music. And you do not need a fan base for that. So you can totally create this music, develop the relationships that are out there with the music supervisors and the music directors and the things and the people that make the ultimate decisions when it comes to the songs that get used and synced in TV shows and film and commercials. You can make those relationships. You can pitch your music to those music supervisors. And I've actually talked in depth about that in the past. We have a course on it at the Artist Development Academy about how to approach those people. There's a specific process. I think there's even a free video on my YouTube channel where I talk about the process of how to do that and do it correctly and how to approach people properly. So the answer to the first part of your question is no. Unless your goal is becoming a household name as an artist or launching a substantive artist career, then no. You do not have to have a fan base because you can't engage that fan base in any way to get your fan base to go to work for you to get a music supervisor to actually use your songs. So your fan base, when it comes to sync, is not really useful at all. Now, on the artist side of it, if you do have a fan base, then of course that artist is going to be posting all over social media and everywhere else that, hey, we've got a song being featured in an upcoming episode of The Affair or whatever TV show that it is. Then they're going to put their fan base to work to actually go check out that episode. That does help the artist if they have a mobilized fan base. It helps the TV show because they know that more people are tuning in. Now, it would be very hard to tie all of that together to say that more people were watching this episode because a certain artist's fan base was wanting to hear their song. But it still helps nonetheless. And we've talked many times about perception in this game. And so it is good for an artist to have the perception, regardless of whether people watch the episode or not, that people are, I've got this song in the show. So it helps. But no, in order for you to have a successful career in sync, you do not have to have a traditional fan base. A fan base does not make the difference of whether your song is going to get used or not. Now, a lot of these music supervisors, their first call are to major label artists to check their catalogs to see if there is a song, because the producers of the show, they want popular music. They want music from artists that people know because they think it's better. Now, most of the time, those songs are too expensive to use. The record labels want too much money in licensing for the more than the budget of the music department for the TV show or film. So that's when they go down to independent artists and things like that. So, but to answer your question, 99% of the time, having a fan base doesn't matter. It's the music director or the music supervisor of the show is looking for a specific feel, a specific song that sets the mood of this scene. When they find that, they find it. And the cheaper and easier it is to clear, that's what's going to be the deciding factor on whether or not they use your phone. So use your song. So don't worry about developing a huge fan base when it comes to sync licensing. It's just not that important. All right, let's continue on.
Of the question is kind of a curveball. You may have noticed that I am completely off of the traditional social media platforms.
I did notice that. I was actually thinking about that when I listened to the voicemail. And I'm like, where has Daniel gone?
I'm not on Facebook. I'm not on Instagram. I'm not on Twitter. And I really don't miss those sites at all. I'm much happier being off of them and it's important to sacrifice in life. And sometimes, the sacrifice makes the business side more difficult. And I have chosen to continue with my pursuits without traditional social media. I'm still interested in maybe live streaming on Twitch. I'm really interested to hear what your thoughts are on that platform. I kind of like it. I kind of like that a user can go and kind of have more control over their discovery process. They go to the site, they know they're going to be seeing live streams. They can press a button that says music on it, and then they can, look around. Whereas on, say, Facebook, you're on the platform, stuff's pissing you off. Maybe you see a live stream pop up in your feed, and then maybe you check it out for 15 seconds, and then you decide, what, I'd rather just go back to scrolling and being pissed off. And then you do that. And in any case, I'm starting to build a website to be launched in December, and at the same time, I'm planning on releasing some music on the platforms around the same time. Starting a mailing list. I'm starting to batch content for a blog. I'm even thinking about podcasting.
Excellent.
So yeah, I'm really curious, what you would say to someone like me who has this particular goal of getting into sync and licensing. One, do I need, those 1,000 true fans that you hear about? And if I do,
I'm going to pause that. The 1,000 true fans is a real thing, but it's a real thing from a monetary standpoint. Where that whole thing started is that if you can get 1,000 fans to spend $100 a year, then you have a 6-figure income from your music. There are many different ways that you can get to that number of getting your fan base to spend 1,000 people to spend $100 per year. That could be merch, that could be music, that could be a membership based site. It can be many different things, all of which we're going to be getting into on future episodes of the podcast. But yes, that is a real thing. The 1,000 true things, the 1,000 true fans is a thing, and it's real. Some of that logic is flawed because I never like I was telling you, I feel like Nashville has a ceiling. I don't like putting out there and thinking that if I have 1,000 true fans, then I can make $100,000 a year. I don't like that ideology. I don't like that thought process because you're already placing a ceiling on yourself. Yes, you need, but I'll tell you this. I know people that make far more than $100,000 a year with less than 1,000 fans. Way less than 1,000 fans. To me, it's all about building value. And when you can build the value and you provide people with the value, most of the time, it doesn't really matter what the price tag is, as long as you are actually providing value. All right, let's continue.
Given that I'm going to, kind of cross my arms and say that I am absolutely not going to be on Facebook, Instagram, or Twitter. By the way, YouTube, Reddit, Periscope, Maestro, I'm open to those. But I think I'm going to make no traditional social media a part of my brand, as it were. Anyways,
interesting.
I would like to say that I really liked your last podcast episode on accelerating your music career. I think in terms of the content and the tone, it's one of the best I've heard from you, and it's a high bar. And I really appreciate your general responsiveness to those of us who are trying to launch nascent music business careers. So to you and to everyone listening, I hope you are well and safe. And thank you so much.
All right, that's from Daniel Truant. Daniel, thank you. I appreciate the compliments. Let me address the second. Well, you know what? Let me just go ahead. Let's talk about social media here for a second. There are parts of me, Daniel, when I listen to that, I love what you're saying, because I made a comment to somebody not long ago that I would give anything to be able to quit social media. And I mean that. I mean 100% of that statement. I fucking hate social media. I really do. The only thing that I like about it is that, well, there's a couple things I like about it. One, I like that I get to engage with you guys. Number two, because in all honesty, when I think about it, this podcast, the way that it's grown, would not have been possible without social media, without Instagram, without Facebook, without LinkedIn, without YouTube, without Twitch, without Twitter, although I fucking hate Twitter. I really do. Without those social media platforms, though, this show wouldn't exist. Because let's face it, I was having an argument with somebody about this a couple of weeks ago. Look, nobody knows who the songwriters are. Nobody knows who the producers are. Unless you're in the R&B and you're in or the rap game, then the producers get a lot of clout. But when it comes to country music or rock music, nobody knows who the producers are. Average Joe and Average Jane have no fucking clue who wrote the song. And look, I don't blame you, because I was a different breed. I used to, when I would get a new CD or cassette tape, the first thing I always did was I always opened the liner notes, and I wanted to know who played on the record. I wanted to know who wrote the song. I wanted to know who produced it. But I was a different beast. I had different goals. The average person doesn't care who wrote the song. The average person doesn't care who produced the record. So I had to build my social media following up to get my brand to a place where people did know about the accomplishments, because there's nobody out there saying, hey, Steve Freeman wrote this song. Or, hey, Steve Freeman produced this record. Even the artists, they won't even fucking give you the credit. They get up there and they win an award and they thank Jesus, which everybody should thank Jesus. They thank their mama, they thank their record label, and they thank the fans, and then they get off the stage. Nobody ever talks about the songwriters. Nobody ever talks about the producers. Very rarely. Sometimes they do, but very rarely they do. So it was necessary for me to tie those loose ends together to go, hey, I'm the guy. And so early on, it was my responsibility to use social media to let people know, hey, if you want your record to sound like this and you love this artist, you want your record to sound like that, I'm the guy that did that record. So if you want to be an artist and you want your record to sound like this, then you need to have me do it because I did the one you like. That's where it all started for me for social media. So I get the importance of it, but I also get what are we now, 10 years, 12 years into really social media being as addictive as it possibly can. I think it's more addictive than any drug that's out there, because I think it is a drug. Every time we log on and we get a comment from somebody or we get a like, it's a little small dopamine hit. And if you haven't seen The Social Dilemma yet, go check that out. And it becomes very clear. We talked about that a couple episodes ago. So Daniel, let me address it this way. Here's what I will say. I will say that if you are attempting to do what it is that you're trying to do and not use social media at all, it's going to be a little bit of an uphill battle. If you're going to, if you just want to sit and create music and go after music supervisors for sync, you don't need social media. You don't need it at all. But if you're talking about releasing music and building up a small, following, even if it's the 1,000 true fans, as an artist, you're going to have to use social media because that's where the audience is. You have to place your product in front of the audience where they are. Now, what I think you're saying is you don't like the engagement side of social media. You don't like having to wade through all of the proverbial shit to get to what it is that you really care about. I mean, when it comes down to it, we follow certain people for certain reasons, and we want to see that content. We've chosen, when we like somebody on social media or we follow them on social media, we're saying we give a damn and we want to see their content. over the last few years, what social media has turned into is they are showing us all this other content of people who are boosting their post and spending ad dollars and doing all this. So we have to read through all of that. We have to see all of the political bullshit before we actually get down and see the thing that we want to see, which is the people that we've chosen to follow. What I would suggest for you, Daniel, you're going to have to be present on social media at some level, but here's what I will suggest. Why not sign up for some sort of a social media scheduling app to where you don't have to physically get on Facebook. You don't have to physically get on Instagram or Twitter or any of the other social media platforms. You don't have to get on that platform to distribute your content to that platform. Hootsuite is a good one. I'm trying a new one out right now. I don't remember the name of it. Hold on. Let me pull up a window. Sendable. Sendable is one. They contacted me about trying and this is not a paid ad. They asked me to try it out. I'm trying it out. And I actually really like it. I'm actually going to probably pay for it and use it. But the Later is one, Sendable is one, Hootsuite is one. This is where you can form your posts. You can attach the media, the pictures, the videos, whatever, and then you can send it out and they will distribute it to all the platforms, but you don't have to actually get on the platform. You're going to have to be present on social media because that's where everybody lives. That's where your audience is. If you want to get to the 1,000 true fans, you're going to have to use social media to get to the fans because that's where they live. That's where they breathe. That's their source of entertainment. How many times have I said it? People's phones. These things are the newspaper. They are the television. They are the satellite TV service. They are the magazines. They're the blogs. Your phone is everything. So you're going to have to be present to some extent on social media. You brought up Twitch. I love Twitch as a platform. I love live streaming. I've made no bones about that. I love live streaming. I feel horrible. I have not done a live stream in months. Like it's been 4 or 5 months. And a lot of that is when we sold I had arguably one of the best live stream rooms ever. I took a lot of time to build that room right, gear wise, sound wise, lighting wise. I put a lot of money in that room and I loved live streaming in that room. But since we sold the house to get ready for the move and we moved into the apartment, which is odd, I've got a space there, but I'm just not comfortable. And being comfortable is a huge part of it. So I haven't reached a point yet where I feel comfortable doing it. I've got some things that I needed to get because I could have grown this podcast beyond where it's even now, which, by the way, last month, guys, we hit 500,000 downloads in a single month. Highest ever. So thank you guys for that. But we could be at 1 million if I were doing my weekly live streams the way that I used to. So I think Twitch is very important. I think YouTube live is very important. I think posting content to YouTube is very important. What comes with YouTube, though, you got to be very careful. Those of you that haven't seen the YouTube comments battle that I've had going on for about the last month, go check out the video that I did, the $3,400 Grammy award-winning home studio, and look at the comments. I mean, I had literal war waged against me on YouTube. A guy made a reaction video to my video. Some of you may have seen the video on the channel. Now, you've got to be very careful about the content that you make and the content that you put out. When it comes to YouTube, consistency is key. So you have got to commit. If you're going to upload one video a week and it's going to be on Wednesday at 9 a.m., then you've got to post a video every Wednesday at 9 a.m. or the algorithm is going to fight you every step of the way. So if you're going to commit to doing that, you've got to commit to it and you've got to stick with it. Podcasts don't do well on YouTube. I've learned that. I went from all of my regular videos on YouTube getting thousands and thousands and thousands and thousands of views, hundreds of thousands in some cases, down to when I post video episodes of the podcast, they'll get 400, 500, 600, 700 likes, views, or 1,000. The podcasts are not a thing. So I heard you mention in there about a podcast. I advise anybody that is starting a podcast to start audio only and give yourself a place to go, which, by the way, those of you interested in podcast, I have a course coming out in a couple of months that is all, and we might even fast track it because I've been getting a lot of requests for this, on how to launch a successful podcast. It's going to be a really in-depth course. It's going to go into how to launch, who you should use, the gear, the marketing, everything. But there are a lot of people that contact me and ask me about how to start a successful podcast to bolster their business. And so I'm going to talk about that in this course. Yes, live stream. But here's the thing. You need to pick a live stream platform. Now, you can simulcast, which is what I used to do, to Twitch and to YouTube. I will tell you that if I could do it all over again, I would pick a platform. I would go, I'm either a YouTube streamer, or I'm a Twitch streamer, or I'm a Facebook streamer. What you really need to put the time and effort and energy into is learning your audience and where they live. Maybe your audience, Daniel, is a Twitch audience. Maybe your audience is a YouTube audience. I think as much as I know about you, I think your audience is probably more of a Twitch audience. So I think it's a good place for you to be. But I say invest some time in finding out which platform is going to be best for you. I've got to bring live stream back. I just do. I enjoy it too much. Don't get me wrong, I love doing the podcast, but I love more than anything being able to connect with you guys in real time. And I miss that. I miss it tremendously. So I'm bringing back the live streams very, very, very soon. And you will know first, if you're in my inner circle, you'll know first. If you're not a member of my inner circle, go to thestevefreeman.com and sign up for my newsletter, The Inner Circle, because you guys will know everything beforehand. So I'm pumped about that. So yes, you do need to be worried and getting into live streaming. Totally 100%. As far as the other goes for social media, maybe get a scheduling thing to where you don't have to actually get on the platform. But yes, you are going to have to be present on social media. I'm sorry, buddy. I'm there with you. I hate it. I hate that my first thing when I get up and I take a shower and I grab my smokes and I go out on the porch, the first thing I do is open and look at Instagram. I hate that. I absolutely hate it. But it's not going to change. And if I want the podcast to grow, I've still got to be there and I've got to be present on social media. But I hate it as much as you do. So to answer your whole question quickly, to your first point, no, you do not have to have a traditional fan base to be successful in sync and in creating music for TV and film. Number two, you need to be present somewhat on social media, whether it's just using a scheduling program and not actually getting on the apps, but just sending content to them. Though most of those places also, when you get a comment or a like or a DM, they service back through this. So you can engage with people directly through your scheduling program. You don't even have to get on the app, but you're going to have to be present on social media. Live streaming, absolutely. I think everybody should be live streaming. I also think everybody should have a podcast, especially if you're a business owner and you want to leverage your brand and you want to reach more potential customers. There's nothing you can do out there short of spending $25,000, $30,000 a month in Facebook and Instagram ads, like having a podcast. It's amazing. And I recommend that to everybody. So I think you're thinking the right thing. Thank you for the question. If any of you guys would like to leave a voicemail, go to thestevefreeman.com. Center of the page, right-hand side, there's a button that says leave a voicemail, and you can leave a voicemail there. Other ways to get a hold of me, you can, of course, DM me on social media. It's at @TheSteveFreeman everywhere. I check Instagram the most, so you can DM me there. Or you can send an email. You can do that through the website. Let's see, is there any other way? I'm sure there's a lot of different ways. I've been getting a lot of emails lately, and I'm going to try to answer as many of them as I possibly can. So if I haven't gotten back with you yet, I apologize. Hang tight. I will either email you back or I'll answer your question here on the podcast. Which, speaking of, guys, by the way, a lot of reviews on Apple Podcasts have been coming in. That's awesome. Thank you, guys. It means so much in the Apple algorithm. that you guys you wouldn't even imagine. And if you would take a few minutes, it would mean the world to me. If you are listening on Apple Podcasts or iTunes, go over there, leave a written review, and rate us 5 stars. It's amazing what that does for the algorithm and them pushing the podcast out to new audiences and new people and getting featured. All of that matters. So I appreciate it when you do it. Follow me on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, and YouTube. Check out the YouTube page. Go check out the war that I've been in on YouTube with these idiots on YouTube. It's been interesting. It's been fun, but it's also been a little crazy. What I find that everybody loves getting on YouTube and leaving negative comments. Everybody loves it. I don't think everybody's prepared for how I come back to those comments, but it's been fun nonetheless. And again, you can sign up for my inner circle at thestevefreeman.com. Guys, thank you for listening to another episode of the Steve Freeman Podcast. We got some great episodes coming up. Sorry today's episode was a little bit later, but I actually just did this episode this morning. This shit's just been crazy as all get out. Guys, until the next episode, keep being creative, keep pressing the boundaries, and there's nothing wrong with being independent. See you in the next one.
The Steve Freeman Podcast. Available now on iTunes, Apple Podcasts, iHeartRadio, Google Podcasts, and everywhere else you get your podcasts.